Good afternoon, and welcome back to the expansion of consciousness. I'm your host, Jason Medlock. And it just seems that we continue to have brilliant guest after brilliant guest. And it's been such a treat to have people come on to share so many different experiences along with different methods on how to improve your life or improve your success. I'm all about bringing people on that can really elevate the conversation. And no matter if they're a coach and I'm a coach, this platform is designed to help people improve their lives, not to hoard information and try to put a patent on something that source has given all of us. With that being said, our special guest tonight is Matt Aponte. Matt helps conscious entrepreneurs and executives live limited lifestyles by providing them with the step by step guidance and tools needed to achieve success, destroy the imposter syndrome, break through self sabotage, and live a life that aligns with true purpose. Matt is a certified ISM mind coach, published author, lifetime entrepreneur, certified NLP practitioner, sound therapist, hypnotherapist, and master certified real leadership coach and conscience expert. As a conscience expert, Matt also shows listeners how to and enter any one of the five states of consciousness. And he teaches you how to do it at will to achieve high levels of peak performance, productivity, laser like focus, insane creativity, deep healing sleep, and unlimited learning potential. Matt is the founder of ISO Sync Labs LLC, which is a cutting edge brainwave entertainment technology company that allows anyone to be able to take advantage of higher levels of consciousness, recondition their subconscious mind, deepen their meditation practices, sleep their best sleep, eliminate stress and anxiety, and attain unshakable focus and create and then live their own limited lives. And I said a whole lot, but this gentleman, this beautiful light, this spirit deserves it because there's a calling, there's a strength that calls Matt to do this type of work. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and bring on Matt. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, Jason. Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem. I wanted to give you the credit that was due to make sure that people really understood the level and the focus you've put into this type of work, all to I assume to help yourself, and then figure out how you could help others.
That's exactly it.
Wow, wow. So, um, you're into different states of consciousness, um helping people change their mindset, helping people understand how to use their subconscious, and I'm sure to how to differentiate between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Can you talk to us on what led you this direction in your life? How did you end up where you are right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll try and keep the do the 50,000 foot view, the cliff notes of that, because it's been a long journey. But essentially, back in 2009, I was just coming out of losing everything in my life, a
Mm,
divorce, my house, my job, much like a lot of people were, during the crash of 2008. And I literally had nothing to my name. I had to sell everything that I had to try and keep the rent paid where I was staying. And and one day I injured my back, and I was doing this commission only job because it was the only job that would hire me at that time as sales. And I injured my back. I couldn't go to work. And one day I woke up, and I looked at myself, and it was just like in the mirror. I was like, "What are you doing?" It's like, what are you doing? I was really working hard, 60 hours a week on average, about 55, 60 hours a week for commission only. Sometimes my checks would be like $300. I was barely getting by. And I hated my life. I hated everything about my life. And I was at one of the deepest pits that I've ever experienced in my life. And I sat there and I said, what is it that I want to do? I said, you know what? It can't get any worse than this.
Right.
So I might as well do what it is that I want to do, because I'm sure I could make just as much or more money doing what I love than doing something that I don't love, that I hate.
Right.
And I've always been in love with photography from a young boy, about 15 years old. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start my photography business, and I'm going to be a professional photographer, and I'm going to do portraits and commercial photography. I'm going to do all that. And so I did. And I started with nothing. I had to borrow money from a friend, and to buy a decent enough camera to start working. But that day, whenever I started putting those things together, I set a goal for myself. I said, 10 years from now, I'm going to have $1 million company. And for me, that was a lot of money. I've never at that point made probably more than $25,000, $30,000 a year. And so whenever I was sitting there and I made that goal, I was also reading the book Think and Grow Rich. That was actually handed to me by
Hmm.
one of the sales reps that I was working with. And so I was looking through the book. I followed what it said to do, and I did all those things. And I just set out to redo my life. Well, I had some good experience. My life changed a lot. Had its ups and its downs, and I found a beautiful wife, and we got married. And so fast forward 8.5 years, I was here in Colorado because I was previously in Florida. My marriage was on the rocks again, almost ready for another divorce. My business had its highs, but it was at one of its lowest lows at this point, because whenever we moved to Colorado, I had lost 70% of my clients, about 68% of my clients, because I was moving out of the state and they didn't want to deal remotely with me. And so whenever I was driving into this co-working space, and I remember looking at the date, and the date was exactly to the date, 8.5 years, 8.5 years since I had set that goal to have $1 million company. And at this point, I think I was making like $47,000 a year.
Yeah. Okay.
So I wasn't anywhere close. And that realization broke me. It
Yeah.
broke me because I was, a year and a half from my goal, nowhere near. And I had realized that I was not much better off than I was, because I was on the brink of another divorce. I didn't
Right.
have any money in the savings. I felt like I had to start my business all over again. And I had a mental breakdown, literally in the car for hours. And after I started blaming everybody, my wife, my clients, but just everybody, after I stopped blaming everybody, I started asking the question, why? Why am I here again? Why does it feel like I am here again? And I had this voice in the back of my head that told me, it says, you are the reason why you are not where you want to be. And that just set off a light in my
Yes.
in
Yes.
my mind, because I knew exactly what it meant. I
Yes.
knew exactly what it meant. I knew that I wasn't doing the work that I needed to do internally with my subconscious mind, my past beliefs, all of those beliefs that had shaped and were continuing to shape my reality up until that point. And I was so desperate that I obsessively dove into understanding the mind and reprogramming the mind. I first started with hypnosis, then LP, then NLP, and I started reading everything I could on how to do it. And the part that was scary for me was is that I had to go back in my past and I had to rehash certain things that happened to me in my past to find out what 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 were the programmed beliefs that I had back then that were keeping me from achieving the goals that I had set now. And that was tough for me because I lost my whole family. I was essentially excommunicated from my whole family, my friends, everybody that I knew at the age of 25. And that was because I was part of this extremely strict, some would call it a cult, religious group. And I decided I didn't want anything to do with that anymore. And so I got cast out. And my whole world up until that point was that all of my friends, my coworkers, my business colleagues, everything and everybody that I knew was in that bubble. And so at the age of 25, almost 26, I was essentially thrown out into the world, and I had to make myself and figure myself out. And whenever I did that, I just suppressed everything from the past. I suppressed it. I said, there's nothing for me back there. I'm moving forward. But then whenever fast forward 15 years or so, whenever I had to go back and really kind of go into my beliefs, into the things that my parents taught me, into the things that I was being pumped into my brain, 24/7 from this particular sect of people. When I had to do that, it was frightening for me because I didn't want to have to rehash all of that. And there were some traumatic experiences, sexual misconduct that happened to me as well as a youth. So I had to do a lot of shadow work, but I was determined to do it, and I did it. Well, for about 6 months, I dove really deep into just ripping myself apart and figuring out what made me tick and why I was being held back. Fast forward 18 months from that point, whenever I had my nervous breakdown, life was good. I wasn't really paying attention to my progress. I was just staying focused. I was doing my work. I was keeping my head down. But I was sitting there doing my taxes. And whenever I was doing my taxes, I remember looking at my annual income and thinking,
Right.
whoa. And so I said, you know what? I wonder what my company is worth now. So a couple days, I go through the whole process. I get an evaluation. 18 months later, from the time whenever I had my nervous breakdown, my company was worth $1.3 million.
Wow.
And not only that, and I would say even more importantly than that, my marriage, my family life was so much better. My friendships were better. My connection with myself was better. My connection with source was better. My life all around was drastically improved. And whenever I saw that, it forced me to sit down. I'm like, okay, I've just been focusing on doing what I need to do, but now I need to figure out why all this happened. And I traced it all the way back to spending about 8 months of heavy, heavy mindset reprogramming work. And so that's when it hit me. I said, wow, okay, I need to start teaching this to others. And so I dove head deep for the next 2.5 years, got all my certifications, and started helping others and coaching others. And that's where I am today, and that's why I'm so passionate about what it is that I do, because it not only turned my life around success wise and financially, but more importantly, I live a much happier life. I live a much more connected life, and I'm still married to the same beautiful woman today, and we have a much more rich and happy life than we've ever had. And so that's where I am now.
So, man, you mentioned success a minute ago, and one of the things I was reading when I was looking through all of your information, really, really good stuff on your website. I wanted to ask you about success, but in this aspect, why is sleep so essential to our success?
Mm,
And how can we get our best night's sleep? By doing some of the things that you prescribed. But there's this one thing you talk about. Um, can you share it with our audience?
I'd love to. So what happens a lot of times is when people get on this road to success, they subscribe to this, what I call old hustle mentality, that they have to work 60, 70, 80 hours a week, 100 hours a week in order to be successful. And, we can't really blame them because we have all these billionaires in the world that are, saying, well, if I work harder than my competitors, I'll always be better. And so that's the mindset that, our, 20, 30, 40, even 50-year olds have, that they have to do. So what happens with that is we become imbalanced because we sacrifice our sleep because we think, well, hey, you know what? I'll sleep tomorrow, right? I just need to work hard today. And what we don't understand, and so whenever I started going, I'm going to sidestep a little bit.
Hmm.
Whenever I started going into fully optimizing myself, not only was I focusing on optimizing my mind, reprogramming and mastering my subconscious, which is connected to the superconscious and how all of that works, but also wanted physically to be in the best shape of my life. I wanted to be the best performer. And everything led me to sleep. And a lot of studies, and I wrote a lot, I think I dedicated one full chapter to this in my book. A lot of studies have proven that if we don't get the right amount of sleep, our hormones are completely messed up. And we also begin to shorten our lives. And there is this key part of sleep that's called delta brainwave sleep.
Hmm.
And so whenever we slip into sleep, we go down into alpha when our eyes are getting heavy, and then we go into theta when we're asleep. But delta is the coveted and most important level of sleep. And on average, we need around 3 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours of sleep, of delta sleep. But most people get so much less than that. And the problem with that is that when we enter delta sleep, and only when we enter delta sleep, is when this cleansing process is triggered in our body. And so what it does is it goes through and it flushes all of our connections, all of our nervous system. It flushes out toxins. It flushes our lymph system. All of this happens during our sleep in the delta sleep mode. And one of the most important things that happens in the delta sleep mode is that we begin to cleanse the synapses, the connections in our brains that have all these electrical fires that's responsible for us being able to think and act effectively throughout the day. And throughout the day, every time we do something, we flex a muscle, we think, we do all of this other stuff, we generate what's called decision fatigue. And decision fatigue is a byproduct of our energy system, which is the mitochondria. And every time we need energy, the mitochondria shoots out and produces adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. And but there's always a byproduct. It's not 100% efficient. So there's always a byproduct. And that byproduct is called adenosine. Now, adenosine is a neuroinhibitor. And what that means is that it builds up on the ends of our synapses, and it dampens the spark between them. And this is where brain fog comes in. This is why at the end of the day, when you're getting tired, you're like, I can't think straight. I can't hold my focus. And that's because the adenosine throughout the day has been building up on the ends of your synapses. And so whenever they build up on the ends of your synapses and you go to sleep, when you enter delta sleep, that's one of the main things that ends up getting flushed and cleansed through your body. So think of it like a spark plug in an engine. If the spark plug gets gunked with a lot of oil, you're not going to have a really high performing engine. So that's why you have to put fuel additives and clean your spark plugs occasionally. Well, getting a good sleep is the key to being able to wake up sharp, wake up quick, and to be able to enjoy your whole day and be a peak performer. And so when I started studying sleep, and I started also studying at the same time what is called brainwave entrainment. I started to create frequencies, and up until this point, because I've been a photographer and video producer, also been a sound designer for almost 10 years because
Right.
that kind of came with the territory. So I started learning about frequencies, and so I started creating my own sleep frequencies, and I've been using them now, gosh, since 2020. And I sleep the best sleep, and my wife sleeps the best sleep ever. And that was one of the biggest reasons why I launched IsoSync Labs. The app is it mainly started off as a sleep frequency app to help people
Yes.
sleep their deepest sleep. And so that is the trick to getting the best night's sleep ever, to increasing your performance during the day. And I say, all you have to do is press play.
Yeah, you were talking about a few different states of consciousness or brainwave state a minute ago. So I'm interested to know, what are the five states of consciousness, and why are they important to operating maybe at a peak state?
Mm, great question. So, starting from the highest of frequency to the lowest of frequency. So, we start with gamma waves. So, gamma waves are 40 hertz and up,
Mhm.
upwards of even up to 100 hertz. Um, and then below that, from about 15, between 15 and 40 hertz, are what's called beta brainwaves.
Mhm.
And beta brainwaves are divided into three different areas. And beta brainwaves are the brainwaves that it's the dominant brainwave activity that we enter about 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes after we wake up. And we, until about 15 to 20 minutes before we go fall asleep completely. Excuse me. Then below beta is alpha. So we have alpha, and then below that we have theta, and then we have delta. Now, alpha is associated with, there's a lot of different areas in the alpha, but one of the most popular is called the flow state. People that love to get in the flow state, they are in an alpha brainwave state. The brainwaves actually shift into alpha, and it allows you to essentially tune out the world. There's also this feeling of lost time where time does not exist. You're able to have a peak focus in this state, and you're able to perform at your best. And what's really cool about alpha is that there's different waves. It's kind of like a radio. If you tune into certain specific frequencies in alpha, you can have a complete focused brainwave. You can do more creative work, or if you want to do visualization work, you can do that in alpha as well. Also, alpha is a light meditative state. So for those who like to meditate, when you kind of get into that state, but you're not completely gone, then you're in an alpha brainwave state. And most meditation happens in alpha. Deeper meditation happens in theta. Theta is when we begin to enter into the more connectedness level. And so that is what's where transcendental meditation begins, which is why it's called transcendental, where we begin to transcend our physical space-time reality. And delta, a very, very avid, experienced meditators, or those who use frequencies and kind of cheat the code a little bit with meditation, can get into a delta brainwave meditation. And that is when out of body experiences, if you want to connect to your higher self, connect to source, astral projecting, most all of those happen in your delta brainwaves. And also, delta is responsible for, like what I talked about, having a very deep and rejuvenative and healing sleep. I want to go back up to beta really quick, or sorry, not beta, gamma. Gamma is a binding brainwave state. So if you're ever in a situation like gamers, people who play games professionally for a living, and there's a million things going on the screen, and they're having to take in all of that information in a split second and make decisions, that's called a binding brainwave state. And they are operating most of the time in a gamma brainwave state. Now, the great thing about gamma is that gamma is also when we're able to tap in to the super consciousness as well.
Yes.
And what's really great about gamma, or what's interesting about gamma brainwaves, is when you get up to about 100, 120 hertz, it matches the same resonance of a didgeridoo that the Aborigines use. And so we know that the Aborigines, I believe, are the oldest culture on Earth, or one of the oldest cultures on Earth, and they are attributed to being very connected with source, and having lots of connection with downloads and all kinds of things, being able to see the future and make prophetic uh,
Wow.
or give out prophecies. And the didgeridoo, when they use that on a regular basis, it helps keep their brain waves up in a gamma state, and so they're able to do that. So those are the different five levels of consciousness, and each one of them, even low beta, there is a mid-range in beta that unfortunately, most humans spend their time in, and that is where it causes dissonance, anxiety. That's where the fight or flight mode is located. Um, and that's where, when you're stressed out, or your parasympathetic nervous system is activated, you're in that mid-range beta as well. And so the great thing about understanding and learning how to shift into different states of consciousness, it helps the body. If you can go down into a low beta or even an alpha just through some breathing practices and exercises, then you can bring your mind and body back into a homeostasis, and activate the mind-body connection, and also begin helping to heal yourself.
And I love working in the somnambulistic state, the right
Mm,
at the line where alpha and theta are. And that state is
yes.
where we can actually connect with the higher self, the subconscious mind, using quantum healing hypnosis, QHHT, the Dolores Cannon technique. So I've done that, used that on several clients, and it is just a beautiful experience to come face to face, voice to voice with that level of intellect
Mm.
and beauty, calling the higher self out, and being able to ask it questions for the client. Some good stuff. Matt, let's look at your website. And you are super knowledgeable. You live this. I see it seeping through your cells, through your veins, and you're limitless. And this is what I mean by that. I looked at your website. I was like, I love just the message of what people are. We are limitless. We are infinite. The infinite abilities we possess from within. But tell us about the website, Matt.
Yeah, thank you. So the website has a lot of information about myself. There's also, if you want to know a little bit about my story, you can check that out. Um, and essentially, on the website, there's information about me and how I can help people. And there's also products on there, with 21 day transformations, MVP VR, which is actually launching next month, which is a product I developed where it combines a, uh, a proprietary combination of sound frequencies, um, subliminal messages, also with put into an immersive state, using the immersiveness of VR to help reprogram your subconscious mind in just 8 minutes in the morning, 16 minutes a day, 8 minutes in the morning, 8 minutes in the evening. Um, and then the 21 day reprogramming tracks. That is an ISM based method that is used to help take people through a 21 day intense 21 day subconscious reprogramming process, where every day you listen to a track. And so for the clients that I work with, I create a custom program for them, but I also have programs that I've created that can help other people, or help people that are dealing with, I have quit smoking one there. And then I also have some to help with confidence, with success, reprogramming your mind for those things. And then let's see what else I have there.
So, but talk to let's talk to the audience on how they can work with you, and what are
Yeah,
some of the things that they can achieve by working with you.
yeah. Thank you for that direction there. So my focus is helping people to, like it says, become limitless, to unlock their full potential,
I love
to
it.
achieve anything, and I mean that, anything they want to achieve in their life. Because Once we understand, and whenever I work with my clients, there's a lot of education that goes on. I just don't say, do this and do that, and let me create this for you and reprogram your mind. There's a lot of education whenever I work one-on-one with my clients. I actually have a book. It's called the I Am Limitless Transformation Program, and it's 4 levels. And every book or every level is a 30-day program. And along with the deep education where you understand yourself and you master yourself, you also apply the things that you learn into your life with my guidance. And the goal is to allow you to unlock your full potential in life. Because once we are able to reprogram our subconscious and our unconscious mind, and have those reprogrammed with programs of our choosing, not programs from our parents, not programs from society or school or anything like that. Once we're able to completely take over the controlling and the programs of our subconscious and unconscious mind and have that match our conscious thoughts and beliefs and actions and goals that we've set in the world, whatever those are, then we reach what I call a true flow state, because everything then begins to happen almost automatically. Because not only is our subconscious and our unconscious mind supporting our conscious goals, but then we're also connecting with the superconscious, and we're calling in the things that we want unconsciously in the background. We know what our conscious goals are, so our subconscious communicates with our superconscious and tells us, hey, this is what we want. And so things begin to attract into our lives to help us get to where we want to go. And it's this beautiful, wonderful experience of flow. And that's what I love helping people to achieve. And so if anybody's interested in working with me one-on-one, that is exactly what I help people do.
Yeah, and one of the things that when you talk about training the subconscious mind, and it brings me back to um, rewriting computer software.
Yes.
It brings me back to retraining or recreating new habits, and that's how we have to look at it as we have to look at it as we are software. That's why you can reprogram it. That's why you can reprogram your mind. You can reprogram your mindset. You can be whatever it is you want to be. And I was reading about, Matt, some of the things you've been able to do with ADHD and ADD. How do you train your brain out of ADD and ADHD?
Well, I'm glad
And
you asked that question.
yeah, you were using a 20-minute process every day, and I was just curious, what is that?
Yeah, so this goes by, and this is why I'm so obsessed with frequencies and sound and frequency and vibration are the keys to everything, the keys to the universe. Nikola Tesla said it. So did Einstein. All of the greats understood it. And when it comes to our brain and brainwave entrainment, what we have to understand is that, just like you said, we are computers. Okay, not to diminish us, but to give a much better understanding that, okay, well, if you want your computer to operate a different way because you're not happy with how it's operating, well, then you get a computer programmer. They come in there and they do what it is that you want, and there you go. You
Right.
have a system that's operating the way you want to, right? And we can do the same thing to us. Now, ADD, ADHD are essentially imbalances of the brain waves. And so what happens is that our right brain, which is our creative faculty, which really taps in and allows us to have all these wonderful creative thoughts and all these things, has a high concentration of beta brain waves, or even sometimes gamma brain waves, very, very high. So that what that means is that the volume is turned all the way up. And then on our left brain, the analytical side, our analytical side of the brain is what's responsible for allowing us to hold conversations with people. It's allowing us, even those in the spectrum area disorders of autism, it allows us to have an intelligent communication with another person. It allows us to be able to be in connection with this matrix, this world that we're in, 2 + 2 = 4, make sense of it. But when we're talking about ADD, ADHD, and then also autism, the volume on that side of the brain is turned way down. And many times there's even sometimes dominant delta brainwaves for more extreme cases. And we see that a lot. We've seen that a lot in autism. But in ADD and ADHD, is that part of the brain is operating more in the alpha level. It's kind of chilled, it's laid back, it's not really kind of being part of the game, but the creative side is turned way up. Now, with brainwave entrainment, what we can do is we can stimulate each side of the brain independently.
Mm.
And the great thing about this is that you can't do this with binaural beats, because binaural beats create a perceived sound. And the only way that you can train your brain out of ADD is if you actually hear the sound. So that way your brain waves can entrain themselves differently. And so there's two ways to do it. The way that I did it, because I didn't have extreme ADD, but I did suffer from it, is that I used one brainwave. So I used the flow state frequency, which is 9.10 hertz, and I used it in an isochronic tone, and I listened to that for 20 minutes a day, sometimes more. And what I learned from that, as also being an NLP practitioner, is that every time I sat down at my desk, I would create my desk as a trigger. So I would tap on the desk and I would start playing my isochronic tone for 20 minutes. And so what I was doing was I was training my brain to say, okay, I'm here in work mode. Now it's time for us to align the brain into this creative flow state. And you can do this in any brainwave that you choose. And so after doing this over and over and over again, because this is where I suffered the most, I would, get down to do a task and I'd be distracted with email or this other, and I have 20 million tabs up on my computer, and I wouldn't get anything done because my ADD was just all over the place. And so after a few weeks of doing this consistently, I was able to focus and work for 2-3 hours straight at a time without using the frequencies. And that's why it's called brainwave entrainment, because we can train ourselves. We are, I like to say, like, we're like dogs in a sense. We can train ourselves. It just takes persistence. When we train our brains to say sit, and it doesn't want to sit, but if we're consistent and we do it, and the only way that I know how to train yourself out of ADD or ADHD is through sound frequencies, is through brainwave entrainment, and consistently doing that, because all we're doing is saying, hey, this is how we're operating now. This is our new normal. And you do it consistently and consistently, and your brain chemistry will change to operate in that new normal.
You are so full of wonderful knowledge, and
Thank you.
I'm going to challenge the audience. Go to www.mattaponte.com, www.mattaponte.com. Look at some of the wonderful tools he's created to help with the brainwave entrainment, and how it can help you become a peak performer. And it reminds me of Dr. Jill Armand. She's one of my favorites. I've done a lot of research with the way she works with the brainwaves, and obviously Dr. Bob Monroe with the binaural beats. But it is refreshing to see that you've put together such an impressive program for people to use. But I'm going to give you the floor. We'll run out of time, Matt. But do you have any special gifts, offers, anything that you want to leave with the audience before we close it out?
Yeah, actually, I do. So I would like people to go to isosynclabs.com. So it's ISOSYNC labs.com. And that is the web app that I launched 2 years ago. And that has all of the frequencies in there, frequencies for deep sleep, frequencies for, we haven't even talked about
Let's get that down again. Let's do it again. www.
ISOSync, ISOSYNC labs, LABS
Okay.
Yeah, so isosynclabs.com, and there you can access um, the app, and there's a 14-day free trial for people to try it out. Try it out for 14 days. Doesn't cost you anything. And if you aren't sleeping your best sleep, if you aren't achieving a best focus, and also there are frequencies in there to help heal. I have all 9 pure tone solfeggio frequencies in there as well, that have a proprietary combination of other tones that hit the body in 2 ways, through brainwave entrainment and also cellular healing. And then there's also frequencies in there for ADHD, for ADD, for flow state focus. And I want your listeners to try it out. It's 14 days. It doesn't cost you anything. And if you don't like it, you can cancel it anytime. And if you want to continue to use it, it's only $12.97 a month. And where I'm adding also, there's also guided meditations in there. There's powerful visualizations in there, and I add new meditations and new frequencies and sleep sounds every single month. And you can also read the testimonials on the website. People that have suffered from insomnia or sleeping their best sleeps that they've never been able to experience before. People being able to have best focus. Experiences of people playing these tones with their autistic children, and them being able to manipulate toys that they've never been able to do before. And so I'm a huge advocate of the sound frequency and the sound waves, because I do believe that is the future of healing us in every way possible.
Outstanding. Matt Aponte, it was great having you on Expansion of Consciousness. You just enlightened our audience to the level that quite few guests do, but you did tonight, my friend. Give me 1 second. I appreciate you, and I'll remove you to the back office. Stay there. I want to say a few words to you before we go. Outstanding. What a beautiful mind. What a beautiful what beautiful modalities that Matt brings to the table. How to enter the coveted flow state. I mean, we're talking about ways to access your subconscious mind, understanding your brain frequency, so that you can perform at a high level. Just think about that for 1 second. How to access the source code, the subconscious mind programming, making sure that you can program yourself for success. These are concepts that we don't talk about a lot. You certainly don't talk about them daily at your house, but we have to understand that there are a number of ways that we can improve ourselves subconsciously, using our minds, using brainwave techniques. Wonderful information out here, folks. And the expansion of consciousness wants to be on the front cutting edge of giving you this type of content. Thank you for watching the show tonight. You can watch us live on YouTube at Expansion of Consciousness, at Expansion of Consciousness on YouTube. And we enjoyed the show as usual. And we will see you the next time. Good night.